The day we buried my father, I thought nothing worse could happen to me that week. My sister proved me wrong before the casseroles went cold. 11 years of my life fit in one bag on that porch. She gave me 20 minutes to pack it. 12 miles out of town, it hit me that I had nowhere to be. Not that night. Not the next one either. 40 miles later, the car quit on me too. I sat down in the gravel, and I did not get back up. A stranger's headlights, an empty road, and a woman with nowhere to be. It was months before I found out why he was on that road at all. I washed 41 casserole dishes the afternoon of my father's funeral. 41. I counted, because counting is what I do when I cannot sit down. People kept coming into that kitchen to put a hand on me and say my name. Alice, honey, he's in a better place. I kept handing them clean plates, so they would stop. My sister Veronica had the caterers moving furniture before the cars got back from the cemetery. She wanted the trays on Dad's table, not the counter, the table. Veronica flew in on Thursday. She flew in every Christmas for about 30 hours. I moved back into that house 11 years ago because he could not do the stairs alone. 11 years is not a number until you break it down. It is a plastic organizer with 7 lids and a pen mark on the Thursday one. It is a plywood ramp my father and I built over the back steps in one afternoon. It is the night charge nurse job I turned down twice because he could not be alone at night. Veronica called every other Sunday and asked how he was doing, and I always said fine. At 4 o'clock, she put a folder on Dad's kitchen table and slid it at me. "Before you get comfortable," she said, "you should look at that. Deed transfer. This house, both lots, into her name only. Dated the 9th of January, 7 weeks before he died." Aunt Ruth stopped talking in the doorway. Nobody in that kitchen moved. "He signed it in January," Veronica said. "Dad chose me." I looked at the signature, and I felt the floor go out from under me. Not because it was there, because I knew that hand. "He couldn't hold a fork in January," I said. "I fed him." She did not blink. "He managed." "Who witnessed it?" I asked her. "Someone did." She was already reaching for the folder. "It's notarized." That was the moment I understood she had planned this before the funeral, not after it. She had brought that folder on the plane. Aunt Ruth said Veronica's name once, the way you say it to a child in a store. My sister answered without turning around. "Ruth, you haven't been in this house since his birthday. Sit down." Ruth sat down. That was the whole fight. 12 seconds, and I lost the room. When the kitchen emptied out, I asked her one question. Why would he do it that way and not tell me? She folded the papers back into the envelope, like she was closing out a register. "Maybe he didn't think he owed you a conversation." I gave him 11 years. "You gave yourself somewhere to live," she said. "Don't dress it up." I have been hit before. Nothing has ever landed like that. "I'm not doing this today," I told her. "Good," she said. "Then do it tomorrow. But you're doing it." She did not wait for tomorrow. By 9, the relatives were gone, and the deadbolt on the back door was new. 20 minutes, she said from the hall. "Then I'm locking the front." I have thought about that number 1,000 times since. 11 years in, 20 minutes out. I took clothes, my father's watch, and the photo off his dresser. I left the rest. She put the bag out herself and shut the storm door, with me on the wrong side of it. Rain was coming off the porch roof in a sheet. Through the glass, I watched her turn the kitchen light off, then the hall, then the stairs. The whole house went dark, one room at a time, like she was tucking it in. I stood on my father's porch, with his watch loose on my wrist, and knocked once. Then I knocked again, harder, and said her name into the glass, like an idiot. The porch light went off over my head while my hand was still up. She did not come back. The crystal on that watch cracked in 2009 when he dropped it off the ladder. He never fixed it. He said a watch that still runs does not owe you a clean face. It was the only thing I took out of that house that he actually put in my hands. I got in the car at 10:40, and I drove, because stopping meant thinking. At the stop sign at the end of Cedar, my phone lit up on the seat. One line from my sister. No greeting. Locksmith comes Monday. Don't make it a scene. I did not answer her. I turned right instead of left, out of town, and kept going. I called 3 people between Elmcrest and the county line. My friend Dana, who has a 2-year-old, and a husband who does not like drama. My cousin Pete, who let it ring out and texted "at work" at 11 at night. And Dana again, because I am the kind of person who calls twice. My phone was at 9% when I stopped calling. The motel outside Bellwood wanted $62 and a card that would hold a deposit. Mine was joint with my father. The bank had closed it the morning of the funeral. The clerk was not unkind about it. That was somehow worse. "You got somebody you can call, hon?" I said yes, and walked back out into the rain. The temperature needle went into the red about 11 miles past the motel. Then something under the hood let go with a sound like a dropped pan. I coasted onto the gravel with the wheel gone heavy in my hands. Steam came up off that engine like the car was giving a speech. I had not cried at the hospital. I had not cried at the funeral. I sat down in wet gravel in my father's driveway, dress, and I came apart. I want to be honest about it, because everything after this depends on it. I was not brave out there. I was a 34-year-old woman, on the ground, in the rain. Then the light on the road behind me changed. The truck went past me first. Then the brake lights came on, and it backed up. I got to my feet, because that is what you do. He did not walk right up. He stopped 6 or 7 feet out and put a hand up. "Ma'am." That was it. He did not ask me why I was crying. He looked at the engine for maybe 40 seconds. Then at the duffel bag on my back seat. Then up and down that empty road. "Head gasket," he said. "Maybe worse. It's not going anywhere tonight. I'll wait for a tow. There's one tow truck in this county, and he's in Missouri until Thursday." He wiped his hands on his jeans and looked at the road again, not at me. "It's 41 degrees, and you're soaked through. Get in the truck." Everything my father ever taught me said, do not get in that truck. I want you to understand, I knew exactly how this story usually goes. "I don't know you," I said. "No," he agreed. He did not argue with it or make a joke out of it. He took out his phone and held it up so I could see the screen. "Mason, Truro County. Send that to somebody, and if I'm lying, you'll know by morning." I sent it to Dana, who was asleep. Then I got in the truck. We drove 11 minutes and he said 4 words the whole way. "Heater's slow. Sorry about that." I kept my hand on the door handle the entire time. He never once looked over at it. I have thought about that since. He knew, and he let me keep my hand there. The house smelled like coffee and wet dog and nothing else. He put dry clothes on the table, a flannel shirt and sweatpants with a drawstring. "Bathroom's through there. Towels are on the shelf." I stood in the doorway, soaking his floor, and could not make myself move. "I'm not going to explain any of this to you," I said. My voice came out ugly. He put a mug down on the table and pushed it a few inches toward me. "You don't have to tell me anything tonight." He said it the way you'd say the porch light sticks. Then he went to bed. No questions, no advice, no good deed with his name on it. I sat at a stranger's kitchen table in a dead man's county at 1 in the morning. And for the first time in 11 years, nobody in the room wanted anything from me. I was up at 5:30 because 11 years of that does not switch off. The spare room had a made bed, 1 chair, and nothing personal in it at all. I put my funeral dress back on. It was still damp. I was going to leave before he woke up. I had $211 and a car in a ditch 11 miles away. That was my whole plan. Walk out with dignity and figure the rest out on the road. He was already out with the buckets. Of course he was. "Car's still in the ditch," he said. "I know where it is." "It's 9 miles to the highway, and there's no shoulder past the creek." I stood in his driveway with a bag on my shoulder and nowhere on earth to be. That is the most humiliating thing I have ever felt, and I was raised by a proud man. "I'm not asking you for anything," I said. "I know. That's why I'm offering." He set the buckets down. "Feedings twice a day. Store opens at 8, and I'm never in it. And the books haven't been done since my accountant quit. 2 years. You want to hire a woman you scraped off a road last night?" I said. "I want the books done," he said. "You can count. You counted the casseroles." I had told him one thing at that table, and he had kept it. I said yes, standing in gravel in a damp funeral dress, and I hated every second of it. Not because of him, because 11 years ago I chose to be needed instead of paid. And it took one night for that to be worth exactly $211. "Stay until you know what comes next," he said, and picked the buckets back up. I thought that meant a week. At 8:15 that morning, my sister's name lit up my phone for the first time. On my 4th morning, I left the corral gate open and put 14 head onto the county road. I did not know cows could move like that. They looked delighted. It took the 2 of us until 2 in the afternoon to walk them back. I kept saying I was sorry until he finally answered me. "Quit apologizing. Latch it, then push on it." That was the whole correction. 6 words and a demonstration. He did not take the feeding back from me. He did not do it with me the next morning. He handed me the buckets at 5:30, like nothing had happened. My sister would have told that story at Christmas for 9 years. The books were not books. The books were a shoebox and a spiral notebook and a lot of faith. 2 years of hay tickets, vet bills, and hand receipts, in no order at all. The most recent entry in the ledger said, "Ray, 3 rolls, owes me." The name printed on the top of the checkbook was Reginald Mason, which I had to sit with. Nobody in that county has called him Reginald in his life. Everybody calls him Mason. Christine Caldwell runs the feed counter in town and has run it since before I was born. She looked at my boots for a while before she looked at my face. Those are his. You'll ruin your feet. She came around the counter and sold me a pair of size 7s for $18. Then she said the thing I was not ready for. You're the Pemberton girl from over in Elmcrest. 50 miles away, and it had taken 9 days to get here. The one whose sister took the house, she said. Not cruel, just placing me. Everybody knows that already? Honey, everybody knew before you did. That is what a small county is. There is no version of you that stays private. She rang up the boots and did not ask me one single question about it. Veronica called the store phone on a Tuesday because I had stopped answering my cell. She was warm. That is the part people do not believe when I tell it. Alice, honey, how are you? Are you eating? 12 days of nothing. And then, honey. What do you need? I said. She needed a signature, a release, so the credit union would let go of Dad's last account. $1,100 in it, and both our names on the card. It's just a formality. I'll overnight it, you sign, we're done. And the house? I said. Alice. Long pause. The patient one. Don't do this to yourself. You said you'd overnight a release. Overnight the deed file, too. That's not the same thing, and you know it, she said. Here is the part I am proud of, and it took me 34 years. No, I said. One word. I had never once said it to her. Excuse me? I'm not signing anything until I see the January file. All of it. She laughed like I had said something in another language and hung up. I stood in that aisle and shook for an hour. I rang up a man's wormer while shaking. The next morning, there was a mug of coffee on the floor outside my door. No note. He never once knocked on that door the whole time I was in that house. He did it every morning after that, and neither of us ever mentioned it. I do not know how to explain what that does to a person who has been alone in a full house. 3 weeks in, he told me a story about a bull named Douglas and a church van. He told it completely straight, all the way through, like a man giving directions. I laughed so hard, I had to put my head down on the table. It was the first time since the hospital. It scared me a little. He did not look pleased with himself. He just went and got the coffee. It took me 19 days to build 2 years of books out of that shoebox. He was owed $4,200 by people who had simply forgotten. I put the ledger on the table and waited for him to say something about it. He read it for a long time. Then he closed it and said, "Huh." Then he went out to check water. My father used to do exactly that. No praise, just belief, handed over without comment. That night, I finally emptied the duffel bag because I had stopped expecting to leave. Under the funeral dress, in the lining, was an envelope I had never seen. My name on the front, in my father's handwriting, from before the shake got bad. Sealed. Heavy. Not a card. I sat on that floor with it for a long time. I have been asked why I did not open it that night, and the honest answer is small. I had just gotten to where I could sleep. Whatever was in that envelope was going to be either him forgiving her or him warning me. I was not strong enough that night for either one. I put it in the drawer under the lamp, and I closed the drawer. It sat there for 4 months, and it cost me almost everything. He taught me to drive the truck in a hayfield in April, and it went badly. 3 stalls in the first 9 minutes. The 4th one rolled us backward into a rut. You're afraid of the clutch. I'm afraid of your transmission. Transmission's 40 years old. Be afraid of the clutch. By June, I was doing the Tuesday delivery run to 3 stores, alone, 80 miles round. The first time he handed me the keys and did not get in, I sat there, stupidly. "You've got it," he said, and walked off to the barn without watching me go. That is the second time in my life a man has trusted me with something in silence. On the long run to Carthage, I fell asleep somewhere past the grain elevator. I woke up in the drive at home with his jacket over me, and both of us pretending. He was scraping the windshield. I folded the jacket and put it on the seat. Neither of us said a word about it. Not that night, not for a long time. I have had whole marriages of friends fall apart over less said out loud than that. I found it in July, looking for the linen closet, which is a lie. I was being nosy. The room at the end of the hall had a cardigan on the chair and boots by the wall. 2 of everything, everywhere in that house, once you knew to look. 2 coffee mugs by the sink, and 1 man who has been drinking coffee alone for years. I put the basket down and went outside and told him I had opened a door I shouldn't have. Her name was Ellen, he said. 6 years in March. He said it the way he said the head gasket. No performance in it anywhere. She went off the county road in the rain, 9/10 of a mile past the mile marker. Nobody stopped for 2 hours. It was that road, at that hour, in that weather. They said it wouldn't have mattered. He looked at the field. It would have mattered to me. I asked what she was doing out there so late, and he took a while with it. Driving home from her mother's, she called me from the car, and I didn't pick up. Because? Because I was mad about a fence. 6 years of a man feeding cattle twice a day, with that sitting in his chest. So I drive it, 1 night a year. Same night, same hour, the whole 9 miles. Because somebody could have stopped. I did the arithmetic, sitting in that chair, and my hands went cold. The night my sister put my bag on the porch was the night his wife died, 6 years before. He was not out on that road to help a stranger. He was out there paying something. And then there was a car in the rain, with a woman on the ground next to it. I asked him once if he thought that meant something. He said, "I think I stopped." Veronica drove out on the 18th of August in a rental with the sticker still on the glass. She got out and looked at the barn, and the boots, and my hands, in that order. So this is it. This is it. Alice, she smiled at me. You've been playing farmhand for 5 months. You always needed that house more than I did. Everybody in Elmcrest knows it. Everybody in Elmcrest also knows you had a folder on the plane. I had a folder because somebody has to be the adult, she said. You had a folder because you knew what his hand looked like in January. She stopped smiling then. That is the only win I got out of that whole afternoon. Sign the release, Alice. Stop pretending you have a life out here. I did not shake this time. I want that on the record. No, I said, and you can stop driving out here to hear it. She looked past me at him standing by the barn with the wrench. "Does he know what you are? You'll do this to him, too. You attach to whoever's holding the door." He did not move. He did not defend me either, and I was grateful for that. It was mine to answer, and he let it be mine. "Get off his road," I said. She got in the rental and turned it around in 3 moves, which she hated. Before she pulled out, she put the window down. Dad's headstone gets set in October. I'm not paying for it twice. Even leaving, she had to hand me a bill. She left. I stood in the drive, feeling like I had won something. Then, Christine texted me a listing at 8 that night from the feed store computer. 4-bedroom, 1.5 bath, mature maple, Elmcrest. $219,000. The photo was my father's kitchen, with all his things already gone out of it. She had not driven 50 miles out here to get a signature. She had driven out to time it. I sat on the floor of that spare room at 11 at night, with the drawer open. 4 months that envelope had been in there, and I had walked past it every single day. My father's handwriting, from before the shake. I want to tell you, I opened it bravely. I tore it like an animal. 2 pages of lined paper, in ballpoint, in a hand that was already going. He wrote it in November, 2 months before the date on my sister's deed. "Alice, if you are reading this, I made it easier for you than it was going to be." He knew. He had known for years exactly what she was, and he never said it to my face. "Your sister will come for the house. She came for the cottage when your mother went. Do not fight her in that kitchen. She is better at kitchens than you are." Everything I actually signed is with Dawn Winslow on 3rd Street. Ask her for the June file. June. He signed the real one on my birthday and let me make him a cake and said nothing. The last line is the one I have not gotten over. "I let you give me 11 years. That is the only thing I did wrong." Dawn Winslow had my father's real will in a drawer, executed the previous June, both of us named. She had also had a bad 10 minutes when I walked in, because nobody had told her he died. Your sister never contacted this office. My sister told the county he signed a transfer on the 9th of January. She put on her glasses. She read the copy Veronica had mailed me. She stopped reading twice. Your father was hospitalized on the 2nd of January. Do you have the discharge record? I had 11 years of his records in a plastic bin in a truck outside. Right hand, no functional grip. Assisted feeding. Written on the 6th. 3 days before he supposedly picked up a pen and signed away a house. So, I win, I said. So, you have a case, she said. That is a different sentence, and she made sure I heard it. Contested probate in this state runs 8 to 14 months, she said, unless the other side folds. Filing, deposition, a handwriting examiner at $300 an hour. $9,000 to start, she said. More if she fights, and she will fight. I had $4,100, which was the most money I have ever had. And if she sells it first, then we are suing your sister for money instead of asking a court for a house. The open house was the following Sunday, 1 to 4, and I drove the 50 miles back for it. She could not throw me out of a house she was showing to strangers. That was the point. I came in behind 2 couples and stood in my father's living room in my work boots. Veronica, your buyer should know the deeds in probate. The realtor's pen stopped moving. "It is not in probate," she said. "It will be Tuesday," I said. "Don Winslow has the will he actually signed. In June. Both names." I read the 2 lines out loud in that empty room, in his handwriting, with witnesses present. She went the color of the walls. "Get out of my house." "Whose house, though?" I said. "You keep saying it like practice." The realtor took the couples out to the yard. That is when it came out of her. "Do you know what I owe? $160,000, and a business that died in the spring." "You could have told me," I said. "Told you what? You had him. You had the whole thing. 11 years of him." "I had his laundry, Veronica. I had his pills." "You had him saying your name," she said. "I visited, and he asked when you'd be back." 30 years of her believing I had bought something from him by staying. That is the whole engine, not the house. She thought I had spent 11 years outbidding her. "You could have come home any time," I said. There was never room. She was not sorry. Do not let me make her sorry. She was caught, and she was owed money. I walked out of my father's house for the second time. Nobody put my bag out this time. I got a room in Elmcrest for $49 a night, and I stayed 9 of them. I told him it was so I could be near Dawn's office. That was true, and it was not the reason. I stopped answering the truck. I stopped coming back for dinner. Christine called and asked if I was all right, and I said I was handling the estate. Handling the estate. Like a woman with an estate. Here is what I was actually doing, and it took me a long time to admit it. I was pulling away from him before he could find out I came with a lawsuit attached. Every good thing in 5 months had come to me because I was standing in a road with nothing. I decided I would rather leave than watch him decide I was too much work. So I packed the truck to go back to Elmcrest and fight for a house I could not afford. He came out with the coffee and did not put it on the ground this time. "You going back? It's my father's house. This was never supposed to be my life." He looked at the bag in the truck bed for a second. Then he said the sentence that broke the whole thing open. "You keep trying to get back to the life that broke you." I said something cruel. I said he did not get a vote on where I lived. "No," he agreed. "I don't." He set the mug on the porch rail and went to open the barn, because it was 5:40. The cattle do not care what is happening to you. That is one of the mercies out there. I drove to Elmcrest with his sentence sitting in the passenger seat the whole 50 miles. Dawn had told me 8 to 14 months. It took 5, and it was over in 50 minutes. Her attorney asked for the mediation date himself back in November. No man pushes his client into that room early when she is winning. Room 2 at the Elmcrest Courthouse, the kind of room where the clock is louder than people. She wore black to that too. I noticed, and I made myself stop noticing. Dawn put 3 things on the table in order and did not raise her voice once. 1. The will he executed in June, both daughters, witnessed at 3rd Street. 2. The hospital record from the 6th of January. Right hand, no functional grip. 3. The transfer dated the 9th, with a notary stamp and a witness line. The witness line said Karen Bright, LPN. Dawn had taken her statement on Thursday. Karen Bright had not been in that house since Christmas and had never signed anything. Veronica's attorney asked for a recess before Dawn finished the sentence. She did not get one. You do not get a recess from a nurse with a work schedule. Miss Pemberton, did you present this document to the recorder's office? Her attorney answered for her. Twice. The third time, the mediator asked her directly. Yes. Transfer voided. Estate reopened. Both names, as he wrote it in June. She came apart in the hallway outside, against the wall, by the water fountain. Not sorry. I want to be exact about that, because I have had a year to be exact. Caught. A woman who had counted on nobody ever checking, standing in the place where it got checked. They'll come after the practice, she said. You know that. You've ruined me. You forged our father's hand. You have no idea what it costs to be the one who left. I had rehearsed things to say in that hallway for 5 months. I had them in the truck. I had them in the shower. I had a good one about the folder. And standing there, with her makeup gone and her attorney billing by the hour behind us, I did not want a single one of them. That was the first sign that I had won something I did not actually want. I said, I'm sorry about the practice, and I meant it, and she hated me for it. I got the keys back on a Tuesday, and I went over alone at 4 in the afternoon. 11 years I had lived in that house. 5 months I had fought a court for it. I stood in the front room with my coat on and waited to feel it. The radiator ticking. The third stair. The pale square where his mother's picture hung. It was exactly as I remembered. And that turned out to be the problem. The kitchen was a kitchen. The ramp on the back steps was plywood somebody should replace. I kept walking through rooms, waiting for one of them to be him, and none of them were. He had been gone 11 months, and the house had not been keeping him for me. I had been fighting a woman for a building because it was the last argument we had left. I sat down on the third stair and called him at 6:20 in the evening. He had not called me once in 4 months. Not one time. I won, I said. The transfer's void. The house is half mine, and she can't sell it. Long quiet on the line. Cattle noise behind him. Good, he said. That's what you went for. Aren't you going to tell me to come back? No, he said. And then, slower, like a man setting something down carefully. I don't need you to stay because you need a place to live. I want you to stay because you want to be here. Nobody had ever asked me for that. Not once in 34 years. Every person in my life had wanted my hands. He was asking whether I wanted the room. I sat on my father's stairs in an empty house and understood what I had been doing. I was in Dawn Winslow's office at 9 the next morning with a page in my own handwriting. She read it twice and took her glasses off. Alice, you spent $9,000 and 5 months to win this. I know exactly what it cost. I'm the one who did the books. Sell it. List it in January. Split it at closing. My half after fees. She had taken $38,000 out of his accounts in the 4 weeks after he died. That comes off her half at closing, and then nobody in this family sues anybody ever again. And the headstone, paid out of the estate before either of us touches a dollar. His name spelled right. One condition, in writing. She signs a statement about the 9th of January that stays in Dawn's drawer. Not to use, to exist. So it is on paper somewhere that I did not imagine my own father's hand. She doesn't deserve this, Dawn said. No, I said. But I'm not doing it for her. Veronica signed it in a conference room without looking at me. And that was the last of it. The sign went up in the yard on the 11th of January, a year and 2 days after her deed. I drove past it once on the way out of town and did not slow down. I had $11,000, a truck with a bad clutch, and no address at all. Which is almost exactly what I had the night she put my bag on the porch. The difference was that this time I knew where I was going. We met in the diner lot on Route 6 to split what was left of him. One file box, photographs, his service record, the pocket watch that was his father's. She had already taken what she wanted out of it. I let her. No shouting. 2 women in a parking lot, with a box on a car hood in January. "You could have just let me have it," she said. "You didn't even want it." "I know," I said. "It took me 5 months and a lawyer to find that out." She waited for the rest of it. The speech. The part where I finally make her sorry. I did not have one. That is what I came to tell you. Veronica, I'm not angry anymore, and I'm not waiting for you to say you were wrong. "That's it?" she said. "That's it. I don't need you to agree with how I remember him." 30 years I had organized my life around getting her to admit one thing. Standing in that lot, I noticed I had stopped auditioning, and I could not tell you when. She put the box in her trunk. She said, "Take care of yourself, Alice." She has called twice since, Christmas, and once when the practice closed for good. I picked up both times. We are not close. We are done bleeding. Which is not nothing. I drove out of Elmcrest at 11 in the morning, and I did not check the mirror. 51 miles. I know the number because I finally did the books on my own life. The county road looked like nothing in the daylight. That is the thing about it. Wire fence, cut hay, one leaning mile marker somebody hit with a plow years ago. I pulled over at the marker and got out because I wanted to see it with the sun up. Gravel. A fence post. 9/10 of a mile further on, a woman named Ellen went off the road. 2 women on the same 9 miles, 6 years apart, and 1 man who drives it every March. I stood there about 4 minutes. Then I got back in the truck because it was cold. I did not call ahead. I had decided somewhere around the Bellwood turnoff that I was not going to. He was on a ladder with a hammer, fixing the same stretch of barn siding he had been fixing since the day I met him. He heard the truck and turned around and did not come down right away. I got out and stood in the gravel where my sister's rental had been parked in August. Neither of us ran. I want to be honest, because that is not what happened. "You came back," he said. "I think I finally came home." He put the hammer in his belt and came down the ladder, and that took a while. Then he crossed the gravel and put one hand flat against the side of my face. 5 months. That is how long that man waited without asking me for one thing. "Books are a disaster again," he said. "I know. Christine told me. She's been sending me photographs of your shoebox." I did not marry him that year. We are not that kind of story, and neither of us is young. I did the books in February. In April, I bought the feed store off Christine. I paid for it with my half of my father's house, which is the only joke he would have liked. The spare room stayed the spare room until it did not, And that is all I will say about it. Ellen's cardigan is in a cedar box in the hall closet, folded, where he can get at it. I did not throw out a single thing of hers. He is allowed to have loved somebody first. Last March, I stood on that porch at sunset, with my father's watch on my wrist. Same watch, same cracked crystal he would not fix. A year before that, I was standing on a different porch in the rain, on the wrong side of a door. The two pictures are almost the same: a woman on a porch and a house behind her. Everything that matters is in which side of the door she is standing on. My sister got $62,000 and a headstone with our father's name on it. I got a county I could not find on a map 2 years ago, and a man who stopped his truck. People ask me if I regret selling that house. They always ask it carefully, like it might sting. It does not. He said it himself in a letter I did not open for 4 months. I let you give me 11 years. That is the only thing I did wrong. So I stopped giving them away. Then I went inside, because the cattle still had to be fed at 5:30, and they always will.